Saving America one entrepreneur at a time, it's the Biz Rap Podcast with your host, Michael Manahan. The show that celebrates small business and entrepreneurs, it's Biz Rap Radio with your host, small businessman, educator, and author, Michael Manahan. And welcome to another edition of Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan, and thank you, as always, for joining me this week. Have a great show lined up for you today. If you're new to Biz Rap Radio, we are the show all about small business and entrepreneurs. You know, I teach a course called Entrepreneurial Finance. I teach it at Cal State University. And in that course, we talk about different kinds of businesses. And we talk about what we call the salary replacement business. And that's basically where you buy a business. You're not going to make any more money than if you went out and worked for a big corporation, but at least you're your own boss. You don't have some, big corporate jerk telling you what to do every day. And by the way, when he screws up, guess who gets fired? No, it's not him. It's you, because he's got to, he's been told by the guys in the boardroom he's got to cut payroll by 10% or 15%. Yeah, he doesn't say, well, I screwed up really big last year, so I'm going to take off. No, he fires you, of course. That's the way it goes. So that's a salary replacement firm. There's entrepreneurial firms, and those are firms where really the idea of an entrepreneurial firm is over time to grow significant value. So you come up with ideas and you raise a bunch of money, you put those ideas in play, and 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the road, you sell off the enterprise and you put a bunch of money in your pocket and your investors put a bunch of money in their pockets. But the third type of business is one that I really like, and it's called a lifestyle business. And it's the type of business where the business owner is pursuing a passion. Yeah, it's not about making money, although it's nice to make money. And it's not just replacing a salary from some big corporation, but it really is about pursuing a passion. And I'm so lucky today to have on the line with me Ross Halleck of Halleck Vineyards, and unbelievable, his business is a passion. Ross, thanks for joining me today.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here, Mike. Thank you for inviting me.
So I think it's the first time I've ever actually met somebody who actually owns a vineyard and makes their own wine. I'm so pleased to have that experience because I just think it would be so much fun. I love wine. I love touring the vineyards. In fact, to me, there's just not a better way to spend a day than driving hopefully having somebody drive you from vineyard to vineyard, and you get the wine tasting and you have some good food and you sit out there in the sunshine. But you've been doing this an awful long time. How did you get into the wine business?
Well, I like to say that I chose wine as my drug of choice in my mid-20s, and as the onion continued to peel, it just continued to hold my interest, and I went from enjoying wine to collecting wine to wanting to live on a vineyard, and so I honestly didn't come up to Sonoma County and Western Sonoma County to make wine. I came up to live amongst the vines, and I thought maybe I would, sell the grapes if I was lucky, and cover my then infant son's college education, or I would at least have relatively inexpensive landscaping that I could use to make garage wine if I wanted.
But it's turned out to be much more than that, because you're running the vineyard, you're making your own wine, and I understand that your wines are excellent wines, award-winning wines. How long did it take you to go from, okay, I'm going to buy this piece of land, to actually start producing and selling wines? Doesn't it take a long time for these these vines to actually start producing grapes that you can make into wine?
Well, it certainly does. This is a long-term strategy. I mean, it's a generational strategy, to be honest. And it takes normally about 4 years from planting rootstock in the ground to getting a harvest that warrants a commercial crop. In our case, because of the environment in which we moved, we were one of the very first up at this altitude and as far west in Sonoma County. It took 6 years to produce a commercial crop.
Wow, so you have to sit around and wait for 6 years and watch these things grow before you actually are able to harvest the grapes and actually make some wine. And what was it like when you actually made and bottled that first bottle? What was your feeling?
Well, it was elevating. In fact, we invited a group of friends, about 20 turned up, to actually harvest our very first crop. And we all worked in the vineyard, and, the fog, nestled between the vines, and we were all chatting. We couldn't see each other, just talking amongst the vines, and spent about 2 hours picking grapes and then taking them to harvest. It was a joyous experience.
Yeah, that sounds like so much fun. And, it reminds me of kind of the old stories about harvesting the grapes in the old country, and everybody would, the old country, I mean like Europe or something. I could just see in Italy the family and then the relatives and everybody coming out to harvest the grapes, and then they're all engaged in the grape crushing, and they have a big feast at that time, and it just sounds so endearing. I'm so jealous that you've got experiences like that. It must have been so much fun. So so when did you actually sell your first bottle?
So that adds another dimension to this thing being a business, which some people would actually argue that it was. So the actual first transaction that took place, which was pretty straightforward, was selling those first 2 years of grapes, because we sold them to another winemaker who used them as blending wine in his own personal, I say personal, but it is not in his own business as a winery. And so, that was pretty straightforward. He picked the grapes, we sold them on a per ton basis, and there was a transaction that took place. But the third year, we sold them to another vintner who offered to make a vineyard-designated wine from our grapes, which is what we were striving toward anyway, which is a wine that had our name on it, that was, from our vineyard. And that wine, which was called Tandem Winery Halleck Vineyard 2001 Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir, that wine, we actually had a bottle of wine with our name on it, and it ended up winning #1 Pinot Noir in the United States.
Wow! So the first wine that you bottled with your name on it won the best Pinot Noir in the United States. The very first one.
The very first one, yeah. It was a surprise, not only to us. It was a surprise to everyone who'd never heard of us before, and those are things. Speaking to other entrepreneurs, I hesitate to coach anyone to put that in your business plan or put that in your marketing plan.
Well, that's quite an accomplishment. Look, it's coming up on time for a break here, but this is so interesting. It's your host, Mike Manahan, Biz Rap Radio. I'm speaking with Ross Halleck. He is the owner of Halleck Vineyards, which he started and bottled his first bottle of wine in 2001, and that first bottle actually won an award, which is absolutely amazing. But we have to go to commercial break. We will be back with Ross right after these commercial messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. And if you're just joining us, we are talking today with Ross Halleck, and he is the owner of Halleck Vineyard. You can, by the way, check them out online, halleckvineyard.com. That's HALLECK Vineyard with no S on it, .com, and you can find out more about their award-winning wines. And Ross, can somebody actually order wine from you online? Is that possible?
Yes, they can. It's actually the only way to get wine from us. We are sold exclusively to our what we call our inner circle members, which is our wine club, and to those who know about us online. And 82% of our sales is to those people direct, and then 18% go to the finest restaurants in the United States, which we hand select.
Wow, that's amazing. So you started this vineyard. You're producing award-winning wines. You have a very exclusive distribution system, club members, and some very high-end restaurants. But so that brings up something else in your background. You actually are a branding and a marketing expert. You've worked not only with a number of other vineyards, but you've worked with companies such as McKesson, HP. So what lessons can the listeners learn about branding their own business? We have a lot of entrepreneurs and small business people, and of course the biggest complaint, or I don't know if it's a complaint, but the biggest challenge I hear from small business people is, how do I get more customers? How do I get more customers? So is there any lessons that you could teach the entrepreneurs and the small business people listening today about how you brand and how you go about doing that thing called customer acquisition?
Well, I think that the most critical component to what you're describing as customer acquisition is having a brand strategy. And, a brand strategy has a number of components, but most importantly, it articulates what are your core values, who are your customers at a very deep, both demographic and psychographic level, who are you competing against, and how are you different and compelling to that target audience. And if you have an articulated brand strategy, it guides every way in which you communicate about your business, and actually keeps you on track in terms of your core values and aligned with your messaging and your actions. And that's critical to building relationships, whether they be business relationships or I will also go so far as to say personal relationships.
So I mean that sounds great. It sounds like something one of my professors, marketing professors, said in MBA school. But okay, I'm thinking of a small business person. Somebody who, let's say they own a dry cleaner. There's a dry cleaner just about half a block up the street from me. Can somebody who owns something like a dry cleaner, can that person also think about brand strategy? Can that come into play in a business like that, do you think?
Absolutely. A dry cleaner is in a geography, and so know who's living around you. Know the kind of people that are there. Gender, income, education, all the sort of the general things that you can know about somebody from a neighborhood. And then, understand more deeply what makes them tick, what compels them to make a purchase decision. And if it hasn't been oversaid, purchase decision is always an emotional one. So knowing what touches people's hearts is an important way to build a brand strategy. And so there might be something about your particular dry cleaning or you as a person, as a business person, that you're passionate about that you might find amongst your customers that they might be passionate about too. And sharing that passion is a way of connecting you to your customers more indelibly.
That makes so much sense. And I run into this all the time. I'm talking to entrepreneurs, I'm talking to small business people, and I say, who are your customers? And I get these very vague responses. Everybody's my customer. Or I could sell to anybody. Or, but everybody's not buying from you. Otherwise, you'd be Walmart.
Right.
Clearly not everybody's buying from you, so why are the people who are buying from you doing so? What is it? Is it geographic? Is it pricing? Is it demographics? Is it something that you offer the competitors don't offer? And a lot of times the small business people I talk to, they're just shaking their heads. They don't have a friggin' clue why the people buy from them. But it seems to me that shouldn't be too difficult to figure out, should it?
No, I mean, you can just ask them. There are plenty of opportunities and plenty of tools to ask your customers, why they buy from you. And you don't need to do it so explicitly because they may not know. But there are questions that you can ask and ways you can engage that give you really clear indicators of what are the things that influence them to choose you over someone else who's offering the same product or service.
Yeah. I'm doing a little bit of work with a restaurant right now that was at one time a popular restaurant, and I think they did their concept just kind of got a little old. But I noticed something. Before I was really doing any work there, I went into the restaurant about 3 times to just to kind of see what it was all about, see what their service was like, what their menu was like, and what they had to offer. And by the way, the food is pretty good. They got a good wine list. It's not overly expensive, but I noticed that I was in there 3 times, and not once did anybody in this restaurant either ask me to complete any kind of a survey card or alternatively to leave my email address. Now today, when we have email marketing, and you mentioned that you're selling your wines to your club members over the internet, it's inconceivable to me that a restaurant could be operating and not trying to figure out how they can connect directly with patrons who are coming into their establishment. I was just amazed.
Well, I think that, even before that, a manager or an owner could easily come up to your table and introduce themselves and just, engage in a personal and casual conversation. And I think that's actually the first line of attack. Especially in a restaurant, is to actually meet your customers and talk to them and engage with them. I think to ask them for their email address or ask them for any information about them is a level of permission that is usually not granted unless you do that first personal outreach. And so the amount of information that you are able to get from somebody is definitely permission-based.
Right.
And so the personal contact, especially in a restaurant, and it's certainly true of our brand as well. I mean, we're very, very one-to-one. Our listeners can't see our logo, but our logo is an H for Halleck. And if you think about, and it's got a dot in the center, it's 2 Roman numerals with a dot in the center. And if you think about that in your mind as an H, it also is 2 Roman numerals with a dot in the center, which means one-to-one. And so we're looking to have a personal connection with everyone who enjoys our wine. And, in your example as a restaurant, getting that first personal contact is the most effective means of growing a relationship.
Well, that is very, very good advice. And again, if you're listening, if you've just joined us, maybe you joined us mid-segment here, we're talking to Ross Halleck. He's the owner of Halleck Vineyard. Very, I would say, well-branded vineyard. They sell exclusively to club members and through a certain number of exclusive and high-end restaurants. You can check them out at halleckvineyard.com. That's HALLECK vineyard.com. There's no S on that, vineyards. It's just vineyard. And Ross is also a marketing expert, so he's been sharing with us some of the concepts and some of the ideas that he's used to market and develop his own brand, and clearly he's been very successful at that. Ross, we're going to come up here on a commercial break. Can you stick with us for one more segment?
Certainly.
Okay, so again, it's Mike Manahan, your host, Biz Rap Radio. We are talking to Ross Halleck. He is the owner of Halleck Vineyard. Do check it out online, halleckvineyard.com. And we will be back with more from Biz Rap Radio right after these messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan, and thank you so much for sticking with us. If you just joined us, we are speaking with Ross Halleck. He's the owner of Halleck Vineyard, award-winning wines. His wines are available online, halleckvineyard.com. You're not going to pick them up at the local Vons or Ralph's store. And, of course, through a certain number of select exclusive restaurants. And, again, Ross, thank you so much for being with me today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for inviting me on.
So when you kind of decided how you were going to brand your products, it seems to me, we talked a little bit in the previous segment about having a kind of a brand strategy, if you will. We talked about part of that brand strategy is knowing and understanding your customers, but you describe your brand as a luxury brand. And how did that come about, and what exactly does that mean?
Well, there are a few components that elevate and differentiate a luxury brand, and some of which are in your control and some of which aren't. And having won #1 Pinot Noir in the United States, our very first vintage, was something that I describe as provenance. And that's provenance, not providence, even though providence must have happened for us to win that. But provenance it comes from the French verb provenir, which means to come from, and it refers to the chronology of ownership of a valuable object. And so my point is that a luxury brand has to have history, even if only a short one. And history is what validates status. And so winning #1 Pinot Noir in the United States, our very first vintage, gave us the license to pursue a luxury brand strategy. And there are a number of other components that could contribute to luxury brand status, but provenance is really an important one. And so I realized immediately that this was a tremendous opportunity to pursue luxury branding.
I struggle with that a little bit in terms of the luxury branding, because could you have a luxury brand if you didn't also have an extremely good wine? I mean, I know you won an award one year, but now are you not under the gun to have to produce every year a wine that is really top ranked, or is it enough to have that brand name that kind of drives it?
Well, that is really important. No, we have to deliver again and again and again. And I like to say that one win and $2.50 buys you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. And we've been fortunate and blessed to have been able to achieve quite a number of awards and have achieved consistent and high caliber wines over the years. So it is a long-term strategy, this luxury branding. I mean, it's been, I've been fortunate enough to build and sustain one in less than a lifetime. And, luxury brands have been around for generations and even centuries, all attempting to maintain perception and increase penetration. So I consider this, we're a very infant luxury brand, and I'm honored to be able to carry that torch.
Well, do you think that you could do that? Maybe not you personally, but people who are listening. Do you think you could create a luxury brand in just about any business, or is it only certain types of businesses that you could possibly create that luxury brand?
I actually think it's possible in almost any business. There are other things that come into play. You brought one up earlier, which is passion. And passion is one of those other critical elements in creating a luxury brand. And if you have that, it cannot be reproduced. You can achieve technical excellence, but that can always be reproduced, and it's a moving target. But passion cannot. And if you have passion, people perceive it in you, in your product, or services.
That is so true. And one of the things that I urge my students and other people I do consulting work with is, hey, if you do want to get into a business, try to find something that you are passionate about. Find something that really excites you. Find something where it's not just making money, but it's the idea of getting up and working with that product or service day in and day out. You'll really, really find rewarding. And I think we see that. You certainly see it in what I would call personal service type businesses, such as restaurants, for instance. I mean, you can walk in the door and meet the owner of the restaurant or the general manager and tell immediately whether they're passionate about that restaurant that they're running. But it's I think it's all over. I mean, there's opportunity to do that in almost any business. So if you are thinking about starting a business, find one you can be passionate about. And on the flip side, I would say, look, if you're running a business right now and it is a huge chore, if you struggle every day and you're thinking to yourself, what's the point of doing this? Maybe you've lost your passion, or maybe you never had it, and maybe you should think about branching out and doing something else. And I've got a perfect example of that. A good friend of mine, I'm not going to tell you what kind of business he has, but he operates a small business. I'd call it, for all intents and purposes, a salary replacement business. He makes a good income, and he's got the flexibility running his own business that wants to take off in the middle of the day, and he can take off in the middle of the day. But he doesn't like the business. And I keep telling him, you know what, why don't you use some of that time you've got and develop another business on the side, and one that you're passionate about. And I bet you in a couple of years, that business you're passionate about will eclipse the salary replacement business you've got right now, and you may be in a position of selling that business off and focusing on your passions.
I think that is good advice.
So, okay, we got about 3 minutes left here, and what any other gems? I mean, you've started your own business. You obviously struggled a long time before you actually started to produce revenue off of this business. But with your marketing expertise, your starting and owning a business, any other thoughts or ideas you can give us quickly before we finish off?
Well, I think that there's one other critical component to creating a luxury brand or creating any successful business, and that is really focusing on building an ecosystem around yourself of supportive and meaningful, I'll call them business partners, but I'm going to say alliances. Alliances is probably more accurate. The people who you're working with who are critical to the success of your business are not just your customers. They're the people who have support businesses, your vendors, your channel, there's a host of interconnected parts. And I think that all too often people forget that those are critical relationships as well, and can elevate and support your business and your brand.
Yeah, that is also very good advice. Don't forget Don't forget what I call that inner circle. Your mentors.
That's what we call our wine club, by the way, is our inner circle.
The inner circle.
So thank you for that tip.
Well, it is a good name, and most business people have that. But I'm not sure a lot of business people really take advantage of it to the degree that they could, and on this, by the same token, there are business people who really don't have that, and there's groups such as Vistage. You may have heard of Vistage, but there's other groups that try and put business people together where you can be with 5, 6, 7, 8 other business owners, share ideas, share problems, share solutions, and it's almost having your mini board of directors. And sometimes it's so refreshing to be able to sit down with somebody who's a fellow business owner and lay all your cards on the table and say, what do I do? How do I solve this problem? And to get some real honest and what I would call impartial feedback, because that kind of other business owner doesn't have a vested interest in making money off of the solution that he's going to suggest to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those are great little networks.
Yeah,
and I'm part of one called CEO Space that is in a forum that takes place in Las Vegas on a 5 times a year, and I find that the people that I meet there are of like mind. They're kind of my peeps, and I get the same kind of support and value from those relationships.
Well, that's something I need to do a show on, is CEO space. I've not done that yet, but definitely that's something I'll put in the books. Anyways, that is it. We've come to the end of our time together. My guest, Ross Halleck. Ross, thank you so much for being with us. I've really enjoyed the conversation today.
Well, thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure to be here.
Not a problem. So check out Ross's vineyard. It's halleckvineyard.com, HALLECK vineyard.com. I'm your host, Michael Manahan. This is Biz Rap Radio, and we'll be back right after these messages. And welcome back to Biz Rap Radio. It's your host, Michael Manahan. Thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. If you were listening to the earlier part of the show, we've had Ross Halleck of Halleck Vineyard. You can check his vineyard out at halleckvineyard.com. Ross is not only an entrepreneur who started his own vineyard, award-winning wines, but in addition to that, he's also a marketing expert. Talked a lot about how he's built the brand for Halleck Vineyard. And also he talked about something that we've discussed on the show many times, how you can incorporate kind of your lifestyle into your business. So Ross actually engages with his customers. They travel together. They have events together. And while, yes, he does sell them his wine, he makes it much more than just a wine buying or a wine drinking experience. Very interesting. And you could, again, check him out at halleckvineyard.com. And when I recommend checking things out, I'm not suggesting that by any means that you go to halleckvineyard.com and buy Ross's wine, although if that's what you're into, by all means do so. Why I'm suggesting you check it out, as you should be doing every time you check out another company's website, is look to see what are those other companies doing. What are they incorporating in their websites? What are they? What techniques are they using to attract customers, to keep customers, to connect with customers? And that's the reason I'm suggesting you go and check out these various websites. This isn't an ad for Halleck Vineyard. But again, if you want to buy his wine, that's fine. The purpose is so you can look and see what successful people are doing and emulate that, copy that, incorporate those ideas into your own business. If you find a website you find extremely compelling and you think that website is doing a good job of attracting customers and answering customers' questions, it's easy to navigate, show that website to your own webmaster and tell your webmaster, look, these are some of the things we need to be incorporating into our website. I was reading an article, The 10 Biggest Challenges Facing Small Business, and I'm going to read all 10 of them here very quickly to you. Money, number 1. Time, number 2. Lack of knowledge, skills, number 3. Information overload, number 4. Lack of direction and planning is number 5. Working in the business rather than working on the business, number 6. Innovation, number 7. Trying to do it alone, number 8. Getting clients, number 9, and poor marketing, number 10. Wow, what a list. That is what you, as a small business person or an entrepreneur, has to face. You have to face these major challenges in how you put your business together. Now, compare that to a large corporation. Big company says, okay, we got a problem with our marketing. Not a problem. Throw money at it. Go out and hire the biggest and the best, the brightest and the best. Go and hire some marketing experts, whether we hire them and bring them on as employees or whether we go to one of those big marketing consulting firms that charge, $1,000 a day just to talk to us, or maybe even $1,000 an hour. I'm not really sure. But as a small business, you do not have the flexibility of doing that. And I know that it can feel overwhelming at times. How do you manage effectively your small business when you have to first of all, when you time in and of itself is a scarce commodity for you. You don't have enough time. You don't have enough money. You lack some of the skills you may need. You're being bombarded from every corner with information. A lot of small businesses not good in the direction and the planning area. You got to take care of the customers, and at the same time you're taking care of the customers, you've got to figure out, how do I spend time planning for the future? Innovation, how do I keep my business changing? How do I be on the cutting edge of what's happening in my business and my industry? Doing it alone, we've talked so much on this show about how you need to have that mastermind group, if you will. You need that group of consultants and advisors. By the way, when we talk about consultants and advisors, you should have a group of people who are not the people that you are paying to provide you services. So your group of consultants and advisors, or your mastermind group, should not be the attorney that you hire or the accountant that you hire, because those individuals have a vested interest. They're not impartial. They are going to direct you in a way that helps put money in their pocket. You need to develop a group of like-minded business people that you can get together with and share your ideas, share your thoughts, share your suggestions. There is an organization called Zvistage Group. It does cost money, but they put together roundtables of independent business people who get together on a regular basis and share problems, issues. And I've heard they're extremely effective, but, if you don't have the money to pay somebody like the Vistage Group, think about putting together your own group. Check organizations you're involved in, perhaps the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary, your church, industry organizations, and put together your own mastermind group. Individuals that you can sit down, talk with, meet on a regular basis, and that's an important part of it, is consistency with your mastermind group. You want to make sure that the people who are helping you do business are meeting with you on a regular basis so they understand the issues and the problems that you're facing. Getting clients, again, how do you sort of balance that issue of taking care of the customers you have, and then all of a sudden farming for new business? Because at the end of the day, you're going to lose customers. Customers die, customers move, some of them will get pissed off at you for one reason or another. You've got to keep the pipeline going. Yet sometimes you're so busy taking care of the existing customers, you don't focus on that pipeline. And then, of course, poor marketing. Marketing is not an easy activity. Particularly today, there are so many ways you can market. By the way, we've had some great ideas from guests on BizRap Radio. Two of them that I like in particular. If you have the auspices to do this, one is to represent yourself as an expert by publishing a book on your particular area of expertise. So as an example, if your expertise is let's say tax planning, well, publish a book on tax planning, and then that will increase your esteem for potential customers. And the second way was to actually become a speaker who goes around and talks about your area of expertise. And, off the top of my head, I cannot remember which guests on our show had those ideas, but if you go to bizrapradio.com, check out our prior guests. You can find out who those individuals are. And both of those individuals can assist you in either publishing your own book or becoming an expert speaker, and through that, marketing your business. So there we have it. There's there may be a few things we've missed on that list of 10. It's challenging, but clearly, at least understanding where the issues are in your business is taking a step forward to solving some of those problems. As you know, if you listen to this show, I'm a big believer in knowledge. I don't think you can ever know too much. You've got to keep learning, keep coming up with new ideas. And don't be afraid to be a copycat. Obviously, you should not be stealing anybody's intellectual property, but if somebody's successful in another industry, in another business, and they're doing something that seems to be working, try it in your business. I'm also a big believer in let's try it. If it doesn't work, stop doing it and move on to something else. Because at the end of the day, you do have to continue to innovate and reinvent yourself. Anyway, that's it for BizRap Radio. Here at BizRap Radio, we believe we can fix the United States of America through a fundamental concept that individuals pursuing their own economic interests in free markets will create more prosperity for more people than can ever be achieved through government regulations and a planned economy. That's it this week for BizRap Radio. Join me again next week. Thanks for listening. And don't forget, check out all of our archived shows at bizrapradio.com.